Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo's virtual meeting featuring Jason Daniels, Becoming a Champion of Diversity in the Workplace. But first, I'll ask Father O to deliver the reflection, and we'll have Kathy Tate lead us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord God and Father of us all, we are embracing the season when the earth springs to new life. So many of your daughters and sons are celebrating Passover and Easter and Ramadan. We give thanks to you for the gift of life you have given to each of us. With the gift of life, you also endowed us with a portion of your spirit and awareness that we are all sisters and brothers. And you infused into us a desire to help one another. Hence our Rotary motto, service above self. Our speaker today addresses motivation, leadership, diversity, inclusion, solution to problems, all intended to improve the quality of human life. Grant that as Rotarians, we will all seek to improve the quality of human life for others. Help us always and everywhere to be the solution to problems, to seek the truth, to be fair to all concerned, to build goodwill and better friendships, to be beneficial to all concerned. And to our prayer we all say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Thank
justice
you, Father
for
O,
all.
and thank you, Kevin, because it didn't sound like Kathy.
Yeah, good save, Kevin.
Kathy has a cold today.
Okay. Now I'd like to thank Spartan Chemical as April's weekly meeting sponsor. Thank you, Rotarian John Romer. So just a couple of quick announcements. We had a blast on Thursday, April 1st. It was our April Fool's Trivia virtual party. We probably had about 18 to 20 individuals participate, lots of great prizes. First place winner was a car and a gift certificate. Second place winner was a gift certificate, and third place winner was lunch with this president. So, and a gift certificate. So that was great. Yeah, a lot of fun. Also, I want to mention that we are in discussions about getting back to live meetings with a hybrid Zoom option. So stand by. We hope to have more communications within the next couple of weeks. And now I'd like to ask Tom Backoff to provide us with an update on our annual campaign.
It's a pleasure for me to give you an update as to where we stand with our annual campaign for the Toledo Rotary Club Foundation. If you remember back in November, we stated that our goal was to get 100% of our club members to give towards the annual campaign this Rotary year. So right now we are at 64% participation. And as a wise Rotarian once told me, there are only two types of Rotarians, those that have given and those that just haven't had a chance to give. So we're working on that second part, those Rotarians that haven't had a chance to give. Our largest percentage of participation over the last decade has been 72%, and that came several years ago. So we've been working as a group among the development committee to try and get us beyond that 72% goal. Right now, we're at 64%. We have 330 members in our club today. 210 have generously given. We're very pleased by their response. but we've still got a ways to go to hit that goal. So one of our generous Rotarians has offered us a challenge that if we can hit 75% participation, they'll give an additional $10,000. You've heard it right, $10,000. And for those of you that work on our foundation committees, you know $10,000 is one more project that we could fund in a given year. So we're really excited about that. So we've got some work to do. We need 38 more members to give, 38 more members. We sent letters out last week to those that haven't participated, and we're looking for that response. Go to the Rotary website, hit the donate button, donate with your credit card, mail a check to the Rotary office. Any amount is appreciated. Help us reach that $10,000 goal. We're really excited about our chances of reaching this challenge grant. We've got till the end of May 31st to do that. So we're going to be working hard over the next several weeks to get it done. And again, as President Alex mentioned, we're still a ways away from meeting in person. So you're saving $15 a week not having to buy a lunch. Pay that towards the Toledo Toledo Rotary Club Foundation. There would be roughly 3 chances this month, 3 chances next month, $90 that those savings could go to our foundation. So we're really excited about this challenge. We want to take advantage of it. And President Alex will be back in June to give you an update. Hopefully,
Thank you,
we'll be over
Tom.
that line.
Come on, Rotarians, let's meet this new challenge for our foundation and for our community. And finally, I'll ask Rotarian Jane Marie Ray to introduce today's speaker.
Thanks so much, President Alex. It's my honor today to introduce our speakers. I'm so excited, and I don't want to miss any of the things that they've done. So I am going to actually read what I have written down with their help. Jason and Kelli Daniels have a defined record of leadership excellence, consulting with people and organizations to build upon their strengths and develop strategies that maximize potential. The powerful husband and wife team have been together for an impressive 30 years and combined expertise. Can you still hear me okay?
Yep.
Through their company, J. Rahman, they help people and organizations grow their impact by tapping into consulting resources focused on organizational strategy, workplace transformation, community engagement, local and national partnerships, and executive leadership development. In 2017, they founded the LIFT Conference Series and launched the Midwest Conference for African American Professionals and Allies. The LIFT, Leadership, Influence, Focus, Talent, its mission is to partner with allies, individuals and companies who value diversity, inclusion, and equity through effective dialogues and stakeholder convenings that drive ideas, solutions, and progress. I've attended all of their conferences. That's where I first met Jason and Kelli. And I can tell you, of all the conferences that I've ever gone to in the last 20 years in corporate America, I've taken away so much information. So I would encourage everyone, if we have one this fall, to please attend, because it was fantastic. And I am so excited to introduce them today because of that introduction and those conferences. Jason is a graduate of the University of Toledo, and Kelli is a graduate of Miami University. They can be found taking selfies throughout Toledo at Starbucks or the Metro Parks. They have a beautiful, smart daughter, Elsa, and a dog, Coco. So without further ado, let me please turn over to Jason and Kelli Daniels.
Well, thank you so much, Jane Marie. We really appreciate you for your leadership and all that you do in community. And I have to say that when we heard that you would be the one making the introduction, it really did make us both smile, as we're smiling now, because every now and again, you run across someone in community who really cares at the end of the day. We understand the professionalism and all of the things that are necessary there, but you've shown yourself to be an advocate and a true community champion, not just through the LIFT conference, but through the many conversations and invitations that you provided both me and Kelly. So we thank you for standing in a place of authenticity and being what you say you are. We really appreciate that. Appreciate you much. I would like to also take this time to acknowledge the president of Rotary, Alex Dew, and President-elect Bob DiNardo. Thank you so much for your leadership and what you bring to the region by way of your leadership and the work at Rotary. And I also want to say thank you so much again to Spartan Chemical for being April's sponsor, because we get the opportunity to benefit in being with you on today. There's a few people in community that I definitely want to make sure that both Kelly and I acknowledge. Bob LeClaire has been instrumental in both not only his leadership, but also his commitment to my wife and I in terms of our business and really just our professionalism throughout the region. I have to say that in my many years working for United Way, up to and including when Bob was even the board chair there, I had the opportunity to watch him closely, watch his leadership. And not only has he provided opportunities and advice to me and to Kelly, especially during that time when we were coming back from Cleveland, Ohio to Toledo, there was one person that I knew I had to talk with, and it was Bob LeClaire. And I can tell you that even the LIFT conference, Bob was very instrumental in not only supporting by way of the bank, but also the many conversations through breakfast and lunch, where in his heart, he really did want to make an impact in this area of diversity and inclusion. And he was able to do that, I can say specifically with us. So I know that he's retired now, but I tell you, let him know that Jason and Kelli Daniels send our love to him, to he and his wife as well, his wife Kelly, and to his kids as well. I also want to acknowledge Billy Johnson as another tremendous leader in community who heads the Area Office on Aging, and individuals like Sharon Spire, Thomas Winston, and Randy Ostra. Your leadership continues to advance not only the work of diversity and inclusion and professionalism throughout our region, but you are standout examples by way of the work that you do in community, and we appreciate you. There's also a few other people who I actually see on the call. If I could do some shout outs, there's so many people that I see on the call, but to Mark Urudia and to a good friend, and she's also an aunt, Beverly Tucker. I see you are on here. She 30 plus years working for Toledo Public Schools and a tremendous champion in the area of education today. I think I saw Janie Miller somewhere, who was also on the board at United Way back in, there she is. I see you waving. You're actually on my screen. So thank you so much for your work. And Ed Caldwell, thank you for the work that you're doing through the Boy Scouts here in Northwest Ohio. I'm going to go ahead and now put up my the screen here. You won't have the opportunity to see our beautiful faces throughout, but we'll be back with you in just a little bit. We thought it would be more important to share with you some of the points through our presentation today, so you'll see that. Let me make sure that I'm in presentation mode. And okay. So Jane has already done the introduction in terms of our business. I just wanted to say you can find more information about our work and the work that we do both in the community and outside of the community at jroman.com. Business strategy and nonprofit leadership work is what we continue to do and continue to advance in the region. And we're really thankful to the many clients that are actually on here today for your leadership and giving us and providing us the opportunity to work with you and your employees. This is my daughter. This is our daughter. This is our daughter Elise, and this is our pup Coco. We just wanted to acknowledge them and their leadership. And the reason we do that is because if we were in a room together, typically when we're hosting conferences, one of the things that our daughter provides is she's the pen checker. She checks all of the pens and she makes sure that those pens are working, because none of us like when we pick up a pen and go to sign something or write something and it doesn't work. So that's been one of the roles that she's played. But I tell you, she was in our room the other day providing us business expertise, hearing the conversations that we have all the time, and she was sharing information with us, and we were I think some of that information you'll probably be able to hear today for sure.
Now, Jane Marie mentioned this, but this is a conference that we created called the LIFT Conference for African American Professionals and Allies. And we created and founded this conference in 2017, and it's hosted right here in Northwest Ohio. We designed the conference to be intentionally diverse in regards to attendees, sponsors, speakers, and supporters. What you're seeing on the screen is a snapshot of some of our sponsors over the years, some of the companies represented by speakers and panelists and by attendees. The conference is 2 days of leadership development and connection and networking for people from all around the region. One of the things that Jason and I think, bring to the conference is our connections regionally and nationally, not just in the area in regards to diversity and inclusion, but just leadership overall, and providing a space for people to be able to authentically connect, to grow as professionals, and to be able to advance their professionalism in the area. So we are very excited about our conference. And I'll tell you, for all the business people on the call, and even, organizations and not-for-profits, before we decided to invest in our business kind of full time in 2017, we used to host workshops and training and development opportunities for different target populations. Sometimes it was emerging professionals, sometimes it was administrative professionals, African American professionals, how to engage different generations in the workplace. And we made the business decision to, instead of hosting our own sessions, to go into companies and out in community so that we could provide the information and our expertise to people on your turf and on your own time. But when we talked about it, we said, of all the workshops and different opportunities that we provide people, what topic and what population would we want to continue to host? If we don't do anything else, what would it be? And it was this topic. It was allyship and around champion diversity and around African American professionals in the workplace. And so that's kind of what led to the creation of the conference. Go ahead, you can go to the next slide.
Thank you, Kelly. And there's one person that I have to say that has been a remarkable mentor and friend, someone that many of you know. That is our friend Steve Day. Steve Day, I had the opportunity to travel with Rotary. Steve, as you know, was part of the Perrysburg Rotary Group, and I had the opportunity in 2008 to travel to India. Now, I'm going to tell you a funny story here. So I remember I traveled quite a bit, and I was traveling all over the United States, going to different places. And I remember my boss popped his head into my office, and he said, "Hey, I need you to go to," what I thought he said was Indiana, right? So that's no different. I'm used to going to San Francisco, Chicago, all these places. And he says, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to go to Indiana, and I'm gonna need you to go for quite a while." And I was thinking, well, how long? But I didn't ask any questions. And he said, "Here, fill this out and get it back to me today." So I answered a few questions and I sent some information back. Little did I know that my boss was sending information to Steve Day so that the Rotarians could consider me as a group study exchange student. When I received the information back that I would be going, he said, "Yeah, you're going to be in India for 30 days. And I thought, India? I thought you said Indiana. So for all the business professionals out there, make sure you're paying attention, putting on your active listening ears. But I would tell you that Steve Day has been and was, and he's passed many years ago, but I had a wonderful time. All 30 days were spent with Steve and about 5 other individuals traveling throughout India to about 20 different cities. And I tell you, the information that I learned, not only about Rotary, but also about Steve, a philanthropist, connected to community, and we all know that he loved that second home in Catawba Island, and he was a tremendous force. And it was really through him that both Kelly and I had the opportunity to grow not only our love for community in the region, but also our love for Rotary, as well as the love to travel internationally. So here are just a few of the pictures. Just have a few that I wanted to share with you all. This is me and visiting a school. Actually, this was a school that we visited, and all the students were deaf, and Rotary played a tremendous part in funding this particular school. We are in Chinchwad in Pune, and Pune was one of the last stops before Mumbai, before we flew out, and I had such a festive time visiting there. And there's just some other pictures of me with a number of students traveling throughout in India. So we had a really, really good time.
Now my turn. As Jason just said, and he actually didn't mention that both of us are actually from Toledo. Actually, both of us grew up and was raised in the Junction Street corridor area. And we have contributed our volunteer time and in service to many organizations throughout this community. But both of us really do still have a passion also for international work and service. And this was an opportunity that I had to go to Ukraine and provide information and education to students at a university around democratic participation, volunteerism, and philanthropy. And we had a chance, you can go to the next slide, Jason. Had a chance to visit many cathedrals and historic just neighborhoods and communities throughout our time there. And I'll tell you, I included this particular trip because, again, as we were traveling through mountainsides and really rural environments, the symbol that you would see, it wasn't a McDonald's sign that made me remember kind of home and the United States. It was the Rotary symbol on hospitals, on roads, or in different projects throughout our journeys. And so I wanted to kind of share that. You can go to the next slide. And this is me being me. And that's my driver in the background there. We had traveled for about 3 hours in that really nice, luxurious van, as you can see, with no seat belts to get to our different destinations. But we just had a wonderful time. And I think one of the benefits of organizations like Rotary, in addition to the projects and the impact that you have, is the opportunity that you afford to people to connect with friends through service. And so Jason and I have both had the opportunity to make amazing friendships, build amazing friendships that some are still in place today through some of our service work.
Absolutely. So if we were all in a room, right, we would have gotten our lunch and we would be networking with individuals, but we're all on Zoom today. So typically we'd have the little name tag on, and if I showed up or Kelly showed up, we would be introduced to many of you. Well, we don't have that opportunity today, but I did want to take the opportunity for all of us to get to know one another. Now, I know that we're all on mute, so here's a wonderful exercise to make sure that we're all awake and we're ready for the presentation that's about to take place. And so I'd love for us, even staying on silent, I'd love for you to shout as loud as you can your name and your favorite food and what city you were born in. So on the count of 3, name, favorite food, and the city you were born in. You'll probably scare all the people and pets in your house, but this is a good time to kind of get revved up. So name, go. Place you were born in, go. And favorite food. There we go. We're all ready to go now. So thanks so much. Listen, we're going to provide you some simple, what we think are simple but very impactful tools. I love to put this up here whenever we're doing workshops, because when we provide information we teach, we provide a lot of content, a lot of usable content in a very short period of time. We know that we probably have another 20 minutes to go here or so, but this is around intensive learning. I believe that this is on Facebook. I think it's going to be uploaded to YouTube, and you can come back to the Rotary page to look at a host of not only our presentation, but others. So take notes, but if you're not in a place or you're driving, feel free to come back, because we think the information that we will share with you will be impactful.
All right, so we want you to know that in preparation for the day, we were trying to figure out where do we go with this kind of talk and what do we have to say about it. And what we did was we reviewed and went back and watched your Monday meeting videos from the last year, starting around last summer, and we reviewed your newsletters and information on your website. We paid special attention to talks regarding diversity, inclusion, and racial equity. And we want you to know today that we are building upon the information and knowledge shared by people like Diana Patton, Robert Smith, Lisa McDuffie, Dr. Shonda Gore, Rotarians, Kendra Smith, Candace Harrison, and others that have raised a question and continue to advance this topic in Rotary. We decided today to focus on trends and opportunities that we see in the region. When we say region, we're referring to kind of like from Findlay, all the communities up 75 to probably Monroe, Michigan. And that's kind of in our footprint of where we work locally, but we have national and actually some international clients as well. But we're really focusing today on what we see in this region. Of course, the opportunities that we're discussing today, this is not a comprehensive list. This won't be a deep dive into these topics, but these are things to get you thinking about how you can champion diversity within Rotary, within your workplace, and within community. So starting with this first slide, We thought one of the key ways that people can begin to champion diversity locally is to reimagine recruitment and onboarding strategies. And one of the things we've noticed is how people and institutions and corporations, developers are representing our region. So we had some questions to kind of get you thinking about how that is happening. When entities are describing, whether it's human resource professionals, again, realtors, development people, anyone kind of pertaining to attracting talent or investors to the region, when you're describing it, how do you describe the region in your executive summaries? How do you capture culture and diversity? And do you even talk about it at all in your materials or in conversations? If so, which types of diversity do you highlight? How do you determine who to share certain types of information with? Sometimes we still see that people look at someone and say, oh, well, I don't think they'll care much about knowing about our Islamic center in our community. I don't think this group will care about knowing about the community's MLK Day celebration, which is probably one of the largest cultural celebrations citywide in our community. And we need to challenge kind of the way that we think about those things. We hear weekly about people being recruited, talent being recruited to the region, especially executive talent. And I'm talking about white people and people of color, and realtors and community people, human resource people, still steering them away from certain communities, labeling them as bad, but really they're just diverse or more urban. When we continue to ask those questions around, how do you think about, or are you well versed to be able to talk about religious diversity in our community? When you talk about industry and businesses, how are you including women and minority owned businesses in those conversations? And so really thinking about who you're including, who you're excluding, and then think about today, how you can maybe include more people in those conversations. Another thing we talk is diversity should be a performance competence, or inclusive culture, or champion diversity in the workplace, is to talk about diversity in the recruitment process and the onboarding process. Many companies and organizations wonder where to start with diversity education, and we are advocates of saying, again, it should be a part of your onboarding process beyond just, sexual harassment training or EEOC statement review, right? The training should be engaging and really test the learning of onboarding or incoming employees. Employees should also be able to learn the company's specific value and culture around the topic. And so many of the companies, and whether you're, again, a not-for-profit organization, institution of higher education, corporation, really taking that time to examine what does diversity and inclusion look like in your workplace. If you have a strategic plan or you have indicators for what you're trying to do, how that is being shared with employees from the very beginning is key to championing diversity. Similarly, or in that same regard, employees, we think that diversity and inclusion and cultural competency should be shared amongst employees at the organization. So we all know that there's typically a leader or a staff member that will be leading the initiative, but everyone should have a stake in making sure the work is being advanced. And so when you look at it being a professional competency, then that's something that's included as a part of annual performance reviews. Are you able to be respectful of diverse teams and diversity in the workplace? Are you able to lead and manage diverse teams well? There's a difference in doing it and doing it well, right? Are you able to advance strategic priorities as they relate to diversity and inclusion in the workplace? And we understand that those responsibilities or the level of competency should align with the level of your job or your specific job responsibility. Again, I think Diana Patton mentioned a year ago, the importance of key performance indicators as a part of your overall work, but we're saying that it's also that key performance indicators should also be a part of employees' performance reviews. Next, We are preparing and investing in diverse talent for promotion and for executive roles. There's a wonderful report that we'll share probably in a link, Jason, after the presentation, right? From Korn Ferry, and it's a consulting firm that works with many Fortune 500 businesses, and they have a report that focuses on Black talent and readiness for executive roles. It includes a quote from a chief human resource officer at a Fortune 500 company, and the quote is as follows: "Every leader has a few missing pieces that need to be developed, but when it comes to Black talent, there is an expectation that they have all the pieces to be considered." And when we read that, that's a report I think that we shared at a conference and to some of our clients. But when we read it, we said, we see that happening with women in different underrepresented groups and talent in our area as well. The equity in regards to and the perception of readiness for executive roles, there's still disparity there. And so how do we tackle not just the perception, but also the readiness gap, right? And one of the things that we think that we can do, or that we see for executive roles, is underrepresented talent needs to gain experience in financial and budget oversight. They need experience in leading people, leading division and company-wide initiatives, and they need experience with executive decision-making. And when I say executive decision-making, I mean complex issues often requiring strategic foresight, right? And autonomy to make that decision. And so when you look at the talent within your organization and you're helping to prepare them for executive level roles, whether in your organization or somewhere else, how can you close that gap by providing opportunities for those 4 areas that I just mentioned, whether they're a part of their day-to-day job or not? Some of that comes through being able to work across departments. Some of it can come through special projects, but oftentimes it can also come through individual employees' involvement in community projects and leadership in organizations. So allowing them to gain that experience through some community involvement is a way that they can also gain that experience if you can't offer it in the workplace. I mentioned just a moment ago, special projects or stretch assignments, where there's opportunity to give diverse talent the opportunity to grow a skill or get experience with something that may be a little bit beyond their current role. Creating and being innovative about those opportunities will help prepare that talent for executive level roles. This is also an opportunity for you as a leader to work with staff, again, with being open to gaining that experience through professional organizations or community service. Lastly, we have a topic many of us are familiar with. It comes up often when we talk about retention and different things, but pay equity. And Jason has a really good example of some work that he did with pay equity and compensation analysis at a former employer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. So, when we talk about pay equity, we hear the term. We just had Pay Equity Day, I think it was earlier this month or last month. And, we see the stuff on Facebook, we see it in the Wall Street Journal, and we know that pay equity is important. The one thing I wanted to share with you is that sometimes the solution to pay equity has to start with a willingness from the leadership, whether that's the CEO or the executive leadership team, a willingness to find a solution to make sure and to ensure that there are not pay equity issues. So for instance, there was an organization that I was working for some time ago, and in the process of doing a number of changes in some of our HR work, I wanted to take a comprehensive look at the pay. I could see, without doing an analysis of the region, that there seemed to be some individuals, mostly those individuals who were at the lower rung of the organization, who seemed to not be making I guess you can say, we weren't paying them as competitively enough, because we saw that lower rung of individuals within the organization would come, they would be a part of the organization, we would train them, we would get them certified, we would make tremendous investments in that talent, especially that diverse talent, and then within 6 months to a year, 18 months, they would leave. When I dug a little deeper and did a comprehensive an analysis, one of the things that I noticed is that the organization was paying those individuals almost $3 per hour less than everyone else within the community. And so that's why we were losing talent. When I brought this up to members of the senior leadership team, the first thing they went to was, well, the budget can't support this. The merit pool cannot support bringing everybody up to where they're supposed to be. And we all understand as business leaders what that means. But at the end of the day, what I found is that there was not even a willingness for the leadership team members to, one, recognize that, one, we have a pay equity issue, two, we have a retention strategy issue or retention issue, and three, we're all executive leaders making a lot of money. We should be willing to come to the table to right this wrong. And there were so many people who were willing to sort of like wash their hands of it and say, well, the former person or the former board or the former CEO. And we find this happening with organizations that we work with. But what I guess the point here is to say, if you and your leadership team are not willing to really do the deep dive and the hard work and have the conversations, because you get paid, we get paid to handle complex issues. And if pay equity is one of them, we should be paying attention to that and looking at that front and center. And so at the end of the day, I can tell you that I won. We were able to find ways to go into the reserves and to bring everybody up to where they were supposed to be. But the key point of that, and this is where your leadership has the opportunity to be on the line, is that what I said was, I'm not taking a raise for myself, and I don't think anybody from the directors up should take a pay increase, because we're making enough. We need to make sure that these individuals have the money that they can
a living wage
and money that they can live off of. And I think a lot of us need to pay attention to the people within our organizations who sometimes, if there's a pay equity issue, there's an easy way to compensate them. So that one was really more so about a want to do the deep dive, have the hard conversations if you need to.
Let me say this, Jason. Also, when you did that work, there was also a plan over the course of probably about 12 to 18 months that it took you all to strategically increase and bring increased pay, but bring pay equity. So it wasn't all at one time. It was a not-for-profit organization that was piecing it out kind of over 1 to 2 fiscal years, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so of course it takes time, right? And we know that, but like I said, the key is be willing to have the tough conversations, especially when it focuses on your employees. And what we realize is that the individuals who are working at that level, a majority of those individuals who were making less pay were people of color, and they were women.
Right.
In the area of, in this particular area around developing or expanding outside employment and entrepreneurship policies, what we're really getting to here is, look, we all understand what conflict of interest means. So I'm going to sort of level set there. We understand why these policies exist. And I'm not saying that we should recreate all of our human resource policies to allow our employees just to have conflicts at work. That's not what I'm talking about. But when it comes to diverse talent and minority talent, so one of the things I am talking about is we need to develop a culture of entrepreneurship within our organizations. And so what that means is, for me, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Both sets of grandparents and one set of great-grandparents were entrepreneurs. And in the process of that, one of the things that I realized is that I had a desire to start a business, and I was working for an organization, and I had doubt in my mind about whether or not I could pursue those dreams. For me, I felt as though the policy or just the thought of me talking to my employer about the fact that I have this dream to start a business would be a conflict. And what I did is I kept it on the inside, and there were individuals who would see me in community, they'd see me speaking, they say, oh my God, you have a gift, or they would be wanting to talk to me about, my brother or someone else may need your service. But I was also very shy about stepping forward and having that conversation. One of the things that I wanted for my leadership, though, is I wanted my leadership at work to be the best that it could be. I wanted to highly contribute, and I also recognized that I was a high potential leader within my organization. And I had those conversations with my boss, but I also had a strong desire to start and grow my business. The game changer for me was one day my boss had a conversation with me. We went on a very long walk in downtown Toledo, and that boss ended up telling me that I could do both, and said that he did not want me to be in conflict with work or my job, and said there are ways for us as an organization to help you grow your leadership, because so often in the interview process we ask people, where do you see yourselves 5 years from now? And I was not shy at the fact that I wanted to start a business. They already knew that. Actually, he reminded me that we had already had this conversation. His desire was that I bring my best self to work. We know that phrase, right? And to do that all the time meant that all of me had to come to work, and that we would both benefit, both me and the organization would benefit from doing that. Today, we have many people who work a second job or are carving a path toward entrepreneurship to start or grow a business, and it should not be seen as a threat within your organizations. You should be asking yourself the question, how do we retain this talent in our companies longer? Is there a way for you to have that employee with those gifts and talents and expertise and have them working in your organization for a longer period of time? How many employees are purposefully not taking promotions or taking lesser roles within your organization so that they can pursue entrepreneurship because they don't think that your organization or company will support them or has a culture to do so? How do we support and remove barriers to entrepreneurship to underrepresented populations? How can you support more women, people of color, LGBTQI individuals and employees by leveraging your business and professional contacts individually as leaders within the organization, or through your influence in community to support the region's growing business economy? So I would say you should take a fresh look at your organizational policies and find ways, even personally, as a mentor or a sponsor, to support your employee talent in this area. Find ways to co-develop and recognize their entrepreneurial talent and expertise in your workplace. Make the investment of time and resources, even if it means you may be growing talent up the ladder in your organization, only for them to leave to pursue their entrepreneur endeavors, because those connections when they leave could be helping you with your pipeline for diversity and your pipeline, even your vendor pipeline as well within your company. Fostering an environment for entrepreneurship at work means you are steadily open to new ideas to serve your customers, open to innovation and out-of-the-box thinking. Engaging with diverse audiences and customers ultimately means increasing revenue or growing your brand awareness with diverse channels. And we find that those who demonstrate that capability, right? That ability to work with those employees in that way, it has a way to provide freedom, right? To those individuals when they come to work, because we, again, want people to bring their best selves to work. Another area is the incubation of employee ideas and innovation. We know that Google and Amazon have always promoted entrepreneurship ventures and at an individual level. And in fact, groundbreaking products from Google, like Google Gmail and Google News, have resulted from the organization or the company's innovation time off program. Are there opportunities within your organization where you can grow that entrepreneurial talent through your employees? We know that ProMedica, who I have to say, Randy Ostra and the team over at ProMedica do a tremendous job, because they have a conference focused on the Innovation Summit, right? Where in some instances their employees' ideas and works are celebrated. Here's what I want to say. In Toledo specifically, we are now ranked #1 for new business investment, and you should ensure diverse professionals in your organizations can fully embrace the idea and help maximize our region through your places of employment. This next one is around affinity groups. And we also know that affinity groups can sometimes be known as ERGs or business resource groups, employee resource groups. And it's really the ability to bring people together who have similar backgrounds and interests, but they can also have powerful influence in the workplace. We know that not all organizations have them, but some because of size don't have them. But we also recognize that these internal networks can be a tremendous support to your diversity and inclusion endeavors. These groups can make a big impact on business results and the mission as well. And some of those business results are some of the things we've mentioned, like recruitment and retention, talking to those groups about what helps them stay, what helps them want to stay working for the organization, right? What are the opportunities that you all are providing that's keeping them there? So they're a tremendous resource. To serve as an ally for diversity and inclusion in this area, you should be asking, how can I as a leader for the company, how can my executive team members and department leaders endorse and adequately fund these groups? Adequately fund these groups. I'll say that again. Do we have an effective, or do you have an effective internal and external strategy for how you will partner together so that the needs of the group and the organization will benefit? So what does endorsement look like, right? Let me be very specific. Endorsement looks like the senior executive leadership team is supportive of the work or the network or that affinity group. There's a direct link to the business strategy of the organization. There's an integration with human resources. Human resources is not like far away from these particular affinity groups. They are working together. You heard me say co-contribute, right? This is a partnership. The organization is learning and growing together with these business resource groups, and they're learning about successes that they can have together. Sustainable measures. I do believe, Kelly believes, we do believe that if you have an affinity group, or if you have a group that's really going to be focusing on impacting the organization, they should have sustainable measurements in place, key performance indicators. They need goals to show them how they are working with the organization in a way that's going to be a tremendous support. And it also helps in the area of support of employee engagement. I just want to say that adequate funding should be tied to the business strategy if you need any help there. And when we say adequate funding, what we really mean is that, right? Understanding what the business model is for how those groups will be engaged and making sure that we're serving as a support. The other thing I want to say too is make sure that there's culture-focused organizations or clubs that if you don't have these groups internally, that they have the opportunity on your paid time, on their paid time in your organization to involve themselves culturally or within these clubs on company time, and being able to we do it for volunteers, giving them an hour or two a month to be able to be in community. We can do this with our affinity groups as well. And then find ways to just be less restrictive, more culturally aware, and professional. Kelly, I'll turn it over to you, and I know we've got about 5 minutes left.
All right. All right, so in regards to diverse talent in businesses, we think, again, Jason's kind of mentioned it, but we want to talk specifically around sponsoring, recommending, and referring diverse talent at work, in your organizations, and just in life. So what we mean specifically is at work, making sure as leaders that you know that you're speaking up and you're advancing diverse talent when it's time for those special projects, considerations for promotions, and you have a ready list of people that you've kind of had your eye on that you want to make sure have the opportunity. When it comes to vendors, you are taking the time, even today, when we get off of this call, go back and look at over the next 2 to 3 weeks, a list of all the vendors that you engage for your business, whether it's interior designers, sound people, consultants like ours, consultants and people who provide professional services, florists, all of those things, and really ask yourself, how diverse are the vendors that I'm utilizing? How can I increase the diversity? How can I employ more women-owned businesses, more minority-owned businesses? And when we say more, we're not just talking about the number or quantity, we're talking about the dollars that you spend and invest in those businesses. When you're talking about contractors and developers, we have a wealth of talent and especially minority-owned and women-owned businesses in our area. And there are many resources. We'll probably, again, send some of those links maybe after the presentation that you can go to, but you can also talk to the people and Rotarians who can tell you, oh yeah, I know a great sound person, or I know a photographer, those kind of things, and really make a commitment to increasing the diversity, not just in number, again, in quantity, but also in the amount of dollars that you are spending and investing in those communities. You can go, Jason.
Absolutely. In our last few minutes, I just wanted to talk about unclogging your diversity and inclusion plans and strategies. We know that there are various ways your diversity and inclusion internal plans can get clogged, or your ideas or plans to begin the work. It might seem like it's such a daunting task. We're thinking about the talent that you'll put in charge of this effort to drive this work forward. You should be thinking about, especially if you're getting started, or if you're thinking about the person who is in the role right now.
Right. You're wondering why stuff isn't isn't getting done.
And you're wondering why stuff ain't getting done, you should be thinking about this. Do you have the right leader in place? And let me share with you what that means, right? If you have the right person in place, the type of person or the attributes that we have found in working with companies, both nonprofit, for-profit, hospital systems, these are the things that that you should be thinking about in terms of attributes. Does the person exercise self-awareness? It is critically important for leaders to be self-aware and identify, understand, recognize, and correct their own biases, right? So is that person self-aware? Are they mindful of what it means to be culturally aware, right? Do they have an appreciation for diverse talent, for diversity, and for inclusion? Are they weaving diversity and inclusion into their larger messages? Do they represent diversity and inclusion? In various ways. And the other thing that you should be asking yourself is, I said this to Kelly last night, but there's some truth here. There's no point of having a person that's in charge of your diversity efforts and the majority of the people in the organization don't like them. At the end of the day, why have a mean person in charge of diversity efforts? This should be about belonging and gathering people together, not pushing people away, right? So I know it sounds funny, but you see this here, professional staller. If you have work in the diversity area that's not getting done, you need to ask yourself, do you need to unclog the system? The last thing is I gave you some of those attributes. Make sure that you hire or promote the best talent within your organization, or maybe you need to look outside of the organization. It doesn't always have to be the one lone person of color or Black person that you're putting in charge of the effort, because Kelly said earlier, it's not like sometimes when you put a person of color in a certain area, you can't assume that they know everything, right? That's not what this is about. This is being strategic, and this is leveraging talent and your business, the business aspect of your organization in a way that is meaningful and authentic. The last thing I'll leave you with is culture eats strategy for lunch. You've seen this, you've heard it. Some people have heard culture eats strategy for breakfast. All this means is that you can have all the strategies in the world, the ones that we have shared and the ones that previous speakers have shared and the ones that you have learned. But the culture of your organization is not conducive to being open, to being in a place of celebrating culture and celebrating diverse talent and inclusion, then you can kind of forget it. So all the strategies in the world is great. This is about changing the culture of your organization. So it is now 12:50. That's the time that we were told that we would open up to question and answers. I will stop sharing the PowerPoint here so I can see everybody's faces again. And I see a few hand claps. Thank you for that. So again, I know we gave you a lot of information and we'll provide some supportive links, but we believe in starting on time and ending on time. So I turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Jason and Kelly, thank you so much for joining, and always good hearing from you. I will be the facilitator for question and answer. So fellow Rotarians, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat, raise your hand, send me a private message. Feel free to do so at this time. I will start the question because we formed a DEI committee internally. And I want to just get your feedback here in if somebody is looking at making sure this is a bigger piece of the work that they're doing with their business. Where do you start, right? Where's the starting point? And we know we have to start somewhere, right? So I think in your professional expertise, if somebody is looking at doing this, what's the first thing that really should be important?
You want to
in front and center, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. Thank you, Chad. So I think what I would say is what we have found to be most successful in creating, for those who want to get started, creating a baseline of understanding about your organization. That last slide was about culture. So the best thing you can do is to ask your employees, right? I know it seems like the typical thing that consultants do, but listening is such an important and valuable step in this process. We call it turning outward. The Harwood Foundation is an organization that we've worked with and been trained with. And what they talk about when they're working with community is how can you remove yourself from your typical ways in which you think. It's not about you, it is about the people that you want to help or that you want to hear from. So turning outward means put on your listening ears, right? And create opportunities to hear from your staff. Ask questions about their perceptions around your diversity and your inclusion and your retention strategies. They will tell you far more than you're probably thinking, and you start to use that information as a baseline. Talk to your board if you're a nonprofit organization, or if you have shareholders, right? Ask your board what they think. And the other thing is, you have a lot of people within the organization and who support the organization, donors, volunteers, board members, who have expertise in this field and can help you with that area. But listening is where we always tell people that you start there for sure.
Let me say this if I can, Chad. I saw someone typed in, where should Rotary kind of go from here? And what I'll say is, I started off by saying we went back a year and looked at the videos, and when it seemed like you kind of ramped up some of the diversity inclusion conversations. So at this point, Rotary within your organization, you apply, your 4-way test. Do you think that the information that you've heard about diversity, inclusion, and racial equity, is it true? Is it, and figure out, where do you go from there? Is it something that now you should take action on in some way, right? So I don't know how engaged the group is, if you formed a ad hoc committee for racial equity or diversity and inclusion yet, but that might be a next step at this point after a year of these conversations and inviting in people and listening. I think you've done that part of the work in some ways.
John, any follow-up from your question that you would like to ask to Jason or Kelly?
Well, I think you've kind of answered that, but I'm wondering if you folks would be agreeable, assuming that the leadership of our group would have you on a committee to, for a period of time to bring that about.
Jason, we're always open. Yeah,
we're always open. Yeah, absolutely.
to the conversation.
Yes,
yes, we're always open and willing to share anything that we have. And we're not experts at everything, but we're certainly practitioners, and we're certainly engaging with a lot of different types of industries and organizations in the area, and can talk about what people are doing, what we see as successes, and what we see as some things that can be tweaked.
Well, you need different perspectives, and from a diverse group, from religion, ethnic, etc.
That's right.
That's right.
You have to have that to get those viewpoints.
Absolutely. And we have tremendous trainers in this area of Toledo as well, many that we've worked with. And so, yeah, absolutely, we'd be more than willing to support you in that effort.
I mean, some years ago, we brought in females, just been all male organizations.
We saw that.
Right.
Yeah.
You've done the work. Yeah.
You've
you know how long it took. Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Kelly and Jason, thank you so much for that. And at this point, I would like to turn it back over to, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I think Jason had a small announcement he was going to make.
Yeah. So we believe that, the other part of the work that we do is in the area of philanthropy, and we recognize, and having worked for both, corporate and nonprofit organizations, and we do some fundraising work for organizations here and there, we recognize that, one, we support you all in this effort. So from our family to yours, we would like to make a gift of $250. And look, earlier you all were doing a matching gift, so maybe we can be guest Rotarians and add it to that pot so you can get the $10,000 gift. But we thank you for the invite to be here today. We appreciate it. And Kelly's probably going to drop off because we have a 9-year-old and a dog in the other room who've been very patient. It's very rare that you can get both Kelly and I together. So, but we're more than willing to do it, and we look forward to staying connected for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And I would like to turn it back over to
Thank you
President
so much
Alex
for joining us today, Jason and Kelly. Sorry I didn't mention your name originally. It was not in my script. I tend to follow my script.
That's right. That's okay.
I mean, what an excellent, informative, thought-provoking presentation. We definitely appreciate it. I can say that we have made some strides, I want to say, in the last couple of years. And we will continue to keep this narrative and continue to push forward. So we are not perfect either, but we do plan on definitely continuing to make a difference. So having said that, for joining us today, we'll be sending you a well-known book in Toledo, Historical Tales of Toledo, authored by Rotary past president Clint Mock. Fantastic book if you haven't seen it or heard of it.
Thank you.
We'll also make a donation to the Polio Plus Fund in your name. And thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you.
And now, to lighten things up just a little bit, I'll ask past President Chuck Mann to deliver today's Chuck's Chuckles. Chuck?
From the pages of Boy's Life magazine, New Books in the Library. How to Survive a Bear Attack by Ben Eaton. Walking to School by Misty Buss. Where Have All the Animals Gone by Darren DeBarn. Falling Off a Cliff by Eileen Dover. Green Vegetables by Brock Ali. And finally, Sitting on the Beach by Sandy Cheeks. President Alex.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Hopefully you didn't have to reach too far down in the bucket to get those.
Doesn't matter.
Because you pretty much have a invitation, as far as I can see, to continue to do this. Okay, so next meeting. Monday, April 19th. So next Monday, Rhett Morgan, Toledo Express study update and recommendations, and Tom Winston from the Toledo Lucas County Port Authority. So looking forward to that presentation. We have one committee meeting today, community services, right after this meeting. So if you are going into community services today, stay on and we'll have you place yourself in a breakout room. So fantastic meeting today. Great attendance. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're adjourned.
I thought that Rotary was for older businessmen. I didn't even realise that girls were invited, when actually it's really exciting to find out that Rotary is for everybody, that it is for, you know, the social entrepreneur on the high street, for the people that are just starting up, you know, like I am.
Well, Rotary's goals have always been the same, working in the community, and these social enterprises are all about working in the community, so we should be working together in the community. It's very simple.
Rotary has changed my life by networking me in with other knowledgeable business professionals and taking on board my crazy and welcoming it as an entrepreneur.
This club is great for us because we now have a small person to consider who's welcome at meetings, and the club is seen to be flexible, that we can come along to whatever we need to. It just offers so many opportunities for helping in all kinds of different ways, and ways which I really want Matthew to benefit from.
We think it's important that children come along, and particularly as a parent, for them to learn that they should be giving back to their community to help make a difference.
I wanted to become a Rotarian because I wanted to promote that young people in Rotary can do more. Young people can be heavily involved, they can be enthusiastic, and they can be trusted in succeeding in pushing the Rotary further. And I want to help as many young people as well as adults in the community and help develop the community for it to be a better place.
Is it good fun?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what do you learn?
Helping other people and making them join the club.
Good work. Future membership and marketing chairman right here.